John's calling Bo Ferris. Ain't that cute? Kumbaya going on in Denver Broncos land right now. Hey, it's all love, man, and it's great to see that we got a bunch of good things going on. I like it. Yeah, I'm having a little bit of fun with it, but in reality, look, man, sometimes a sideline argument can be a spark that gets a team going. So for whatever reason, the Denver Broncos in that Raiders game, when Bo Nix got into that fight, he got fired up. I think the team bought into Bo Nix a little bit, and things started rolling. Look, I'm impressed with where this team's at. And obviously it's in large part due to Vance Joseph and the Denver Broncos defense. And we'll dive into all of that. But Bo Nix is getting better. Bo Nix is improving. And he's not anywhere close to where he needs to be just yet, but he's getting better, man, and it's cool to see. So, I've been very critical of Bo in the first couple games, as just about everybody else was. It wasn't saying that Bo Nix couldn't be the guy ever. It's just given an analysis of the games that have been played. And as we get further along in the season, as things get better, we had a great game against Tampa Bay. You go out there against the Jets, throw that one out there because of the bad weather. If you want to toss that out with the bathwater, okay, fine. Now we can kind of pretend that Bo Nix has strung together 2 straight games if you toss that Jets game out of good performances. So I rewatched the Raiders game, and when I watched it live in the first half, man, it felt brutal. The offense just, goodness gracious, here we go again. Can't get anything done. And after watching the all 22, honestly, my takeaway, Broncos did a lot of good things offensively, even in the first half, which when you're watching it live, it did not feel that way. Javonte was running the ball really damn well. Bo Nix was taking what the defense was giving him. And the best thing that Bo Nix is doing right now, he is protecting the football. Mike Shanahan used to always tell us that if you wanted to look at one stat line, and stats are always misleading, but if you wanted to look at one stat line at the end of a football game and you didn't look at the actual score itself and you want to find out who won the game, look at the turnover battle. If you look at who wins the turnover battle, about 85% of the time, that team is going to win the football game. Broncos are taking care of the football. They're getting turnovers. Bo Nix has got 0 turnovers in the last 2 games. Actually, the last 3 games, I believe. He had 2 turnovers each in the first 2 games. And the Broncos are creating turnovers. You got 3 turnovers against the Raiders. 1 goes for the pick 6. Sean Payton said after the game that anytime you get a score on defense, you're going to win the game 80% of the time. And I believe that stat. So here we are. We're in a great position for a young quarterback. Javonte is finding his legs. I think that Sean Payton went away from the running game in the first half for some dumb reason when Javonte was out there balling and the offensive line was creating holes for him. But for a young quarterback, he's got a few best friends, an offensive line, a running game, and a great defense. Got all those going on, don't you? Got a great defense, offensive line, work in progress. Alex Palczewski gets banged up. Matt Pert goes in there. Frank Crum ends up in the game at some point. And now we got moving parts going on because of injuries. Mike McGlinchey's still out. So that's a work in progress. Alex Palczewski's been pretty dang good. Did not have a good game against the Raiders. Went up against Max Crosby. Got humbled. Max Crosby will do that to a lot of guys. I think Alex Palczewski in the big picture is doing a lot of good things. But he got hurt. And so now we got the backup right tackle in the game as we go up against the Chargers. So look, as we head into this weekend, here's what it looks like. First off, you want to beat the Chargers, somebody piss off Bo Nix. You got a bad joke to tell Bo Nix? Yell at him on the sideline. Apparently he plays better football when he gets pissed off. It's a mindset a lot of athletes have. Some athletes fold under pressure. A lot of athletes thrive under pressure. When they get ticked off, some guys, they lose their mind and they get personal fouls. Other guys, it's like the channel. It just gets channeled in. And Bo Nix got ticked off in that Raiders game. I hope somebody ticks him off against the Chargers game and they get rocking and rolling. Look, this Chargers team is a bit confusing. Justin Herbert, who is allegedly one of the elite quarterbacks in the NFL, has yet to throw for 200 yards. Think about that for a second. Justin Herbert has not thrown for 200 yards in a game. I'll read you his stats here. Week 1 against the Raiders. Justin Herbert, 144 yards, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions. 144 yards. Week 2 against the Panthers, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Week 3 against the Steelers, 125 yards, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions. Against the Chiefs, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions, 179 yards. Now, he's been banged up, I know. So before somebody gets in on the text line, by the way, I can see all your comments. Let's see. Mel Marks, what's up, big man? Love the show, dude. Appreciate you, Mel. Whether you're on Twitch or whether you're on YouTube, send in whatever comments, any questions you've got about the matchup, and I will see them live and I will interact with you live. So let's keep this interactive. I guess I'll take 2 seconds as people are starting to tune in here and self-promo myself here a little bit. Mount Columbus Speaks is a brand new podcast. If you haven't heard of it, we've only been around for about a week and a half, 2 weeks, but we're pumping out content just about every single day, if not every day, every other day. If you go over to my YouTube channel and subscribe, I'd really, really appreciate it. The link is in my Twitter bio. If you're watching on Twitter right now, if you're watching on Facebook, it's just YouTube/@Mount Columbus. So please go over there and subscribe. You'd be doing me a huge favor. I'm really trying to build up my audience over there on YouTube. Anyways, Justin Herbert, is he off, or is Jim Harbaugh handcuffing him? We all know that Jim Harbaugh likes to run the football, and he's been doing that. But I got to tell you, man, good coaching is coaching the best players on your football team. And when Justin Herbert is only averaging like 23 to 24 throws per game, I'm not sure if that's great coaching. I know that Harbaugh is trying to set the identity of the football team as a run-first team, and that's cool, man. I'm an offensive lineman. I'm down for that. You know I love that. But you got one of the allegedly best quarterbacks in the NFL and Justin Herbert, and you're only putting the ball in his hands 24 times per game. That doesn't make sense to me. So I hope that stays the same against the Broncos, because I feel pretty dang good about the Broncos defense in terms of the rush defense. I feel great about the Broncos pass defense as well. Shoot, Riley Moss, that dude came out of nowhere. Had a redshirt year in his rookie year in the NFL, did not play, got banged up also, but did not play. And then a lot of us were wondering, is Riley Moss going to end up being a bust? A bust? Are you kidding me? Riley Moss could be the best corner on a lot of teams in the NFL. He just happens to be side by side with Pat Surtain. And because Riley Moss is balling, you know what that's doing for Pat Surtain? That's allowing him to actually get the ball thrown his way. Usually teams just don't throw the ball at Pat Surtain because they throw to the other side of the field. Well, now with Riley balling, quarterbacks are like, well, shoot, I guess I'll throw it wherever I can. They're throwing the ball to Pat Surtain. Pat ends up with 2 interceptions in the game. And Riley Moss is a huge factor in that, because now teams will actually have to spread the field when they play the Denver Broncos. Riley is, fun little fact here, the first white corner to get an interception in the last 20 years. the last white corner to get an interception, Jason Sehorn. Fun little fact there. I think it was even more than 20 years. I want to say it was in like 2000, maybe 2001, something like that. Riley Moss, defying stereotypes. Okay, so Justin Herbert is off, or Jim Harbaugh is handcuffing him. One of the two. The Chargers came out the gates running the football really, really well. J.K. Dobbins in week 1 ran for 135 yards. In week 2, he ran for 131 yards. In week 3 and week 4, against the Steelers, September 22nd, J.K. Dobbins' stat line reads 44 yards, 2.9 average, 3 receptions. Against the Chiefs, September 29th, 32 yards, 2.3 average. Okay, so they're distributing the rock. They're getting other people involved. But the point is this: vaunted rush attack from the Chargers that the season began with, and it did look good. Shoot, 135 yards in week 1, 131 yards in week 2. I guess I wouldn't mind keeping the ball from Justin Herbert either. You're running the ball well. You're averaging J.K. Dobbins average against the Raiders. Check this out, 13.5 yards per pop. All right, I keep handing the ball off also. But the Chargers are a weird team, and Chargers going to Charger, right? That's what the Chargers do. They every single year they've got great talent on the team, and eventually Chargers just Charger. They figure out a way to lose football games. That's what they're doing this year also. You know, the Chargers were allegedly in a rebuild year, and they got rid of some really good football players. They got rid of their wide receivers. They got rid of some pass rushers, and they were looking at a reset year. So I'm sure that Jim Harbaugh is not panicking over there because he wasn't making it about this year. But they came out in week 1. They beat the Raiders 22-10. They came out in week 2 against the Panthers, worst team in the NFL, beat them 26-3. Week 3 against the Chargers, they lose 20-10. Week 4 against the Chiefs, they lose 17-10. Week 5, Chargers get a bye week, which the Chargers are singing hallelujah for that bye week because they are banged up, especially on the offensive line. Chargers offensive line has been out, their right tackle and their left tackle. Rashawn Slater is a really, really good tackle. Joe Alt, the rookie, a really, really good tackle. Both guys have been out. Chargers are on like their third or fourth combination of offensive line since the season began. So that bye week could not have hit at a better time between Justin Herbert's ankle, Joe Alt, Rashawn Slater, and a handful of other injuries that are going on. The Chargers really needed that early bye week. Most teams hate an early bye week because they want it later on in the season. I think that came at a pretty dang good time for the Chargers. So Joe Alt is expected to be back against the Denver Broncos. He was questionable, listed as questionable on the injury report. Rashawn Slater, a little bit more mysterious. Not sure if Rashawn Slater is going to be back or not. I got a hunch he will be. If those two guys are back, I think the Chargers offensive line is a formidable bunch. Without those two guys, they've been a hot mess. The Chargers have given up 9 sacks in 4 games, and the Denver Broncos have gotten 19 sacks in 5 games. That's a matchup that I like. That's a matchup that I think the Broncos could take advantage of. All right, I'm going to just take a minute here to check in on the comments. Sean, dude, are you sick? No, I just got a deep voice. And yes, I'm a little congested, but not sick. Okay, Twitter here. Yes, thank you. How do you see Denver against the Saints? We'll get into the Saints, but I'll take a second here and I'll just look at the next 3 games between the Chargers, the Saints, and the Panthers. Check this out. Broncos are 3-2 right now. Can the Broncos beat the Chargers? Yes. Can the Broncos beat the Saints? Yes. Can the Broncos beat the Panthers? Yes. What if there's a world in which the Denver Broncos are 6-2? Yeah, I paused there for a second. Just let that one settle in. That's realistic. The Broncos could beat the next 3 games, their next 3 opponents. The Broncos could be 6-2. I'm actually not going to predict that because until I see this offense start to click a little bit more than it is, at some point, you're going to lose the football game just because the offense is not scoring enough points. But shoot, the way the Broncos defense is playing, you might only have to score 20 points to win every game this year. And I think you got a chance to beat the Chargers. I know you got a chance to beat the Saints, who after they put up their 41 points, they've been on a free fall. And then you got the Panthers, worst team in the NFL. They got a great opportunity here, man. I mean, say they go 5-3. They win 2 out of the next 3 games. Let's be realistic about it. That's probably what I think is probably going to happen. You're 5-3 at the halfway mark of the season. You've played 8 games. There's 17 games in the season, a little bit over halfway. I'm not great at math. dude, we're talking playoffs. And then you want to know what you're talking about? You're talking about the trade deadline. Are you going to be buyers? Had this big conversation on my radio show today on PhD, Columbus, Hastings, and DMAC over there on Altitude 92.5. We're on from 12 to 3. Check it out. We were having a big conversation about the trade deadline. Even if the Broncos are in a great position at 5-3, 6-2, I don't want the Broncos to be buyers at the trade deadline. My partners wanted them to be looking for a tight end. And I'm like, no, the Broncos are exactly where they want to be right now. They let go of some veterans that were really good football players at the end of training camp because it was time to get younger. They let go of Tim Patrick. If Tim Patrick was on this football team, let's keep it real, he'd probably be the second best wide receiver on the team. But that doesn't mean it was a bad decision to get rid of Tim. It was the right decision to get rid of Tim Patrick because it wasn't about this year. This year is about building a base for in 2 to 3 years. And if you make the playoffs this year, awesome. But don't get distracted at the trade deadline because the Broncos need a lot of new players in the future. And they need to hold on to those draft picks, in my opinion. You know what you do at the trade deadline? You go out and you give up a overpriced draft pick for a player that's probably going to be on your team for 1 year, maybe 2 years. Every now and then you can get a budget trade done, and maybe even give them a new deal. But more times than not, in-season trades are 1 to 2 year rentals. And when you get into the postseason, when you make a trade, then now you can get more of a long-term commitment and you get more premier players. But in the middle of the season, you're talking about 1 to 2 year rentals. I don't want to be in the business of giving up a second rounder, a third rounder for a 1 to 2 year rental when this team has done the right thing. They got rid of Tim Patrick. They also gave up on Samaje Perine, who's out there with the Chiefs playing really good football for him. And again, do I think Samaje could be contributing on this football team? I do. I absolutely think he could be contributing, but you made room for Tyler Bidet. You made room for other young football players, and that's what the Broncos need to do. So I would say what the Broncos need to do, take a long, hard look at how the Nuggets got to where they are right now. I know it's a different sport. I know you might say, what the heck does that have to do with anything? How did the Nuggets get to a championship level? They had a plan and they stuck to it. They'd never ventured off from the plan. They didn't go out and try to buy all their players in free agency. They drafted, they developed, they waited organically, it grew, and eventually they got to a championship caliber because they stuck with their guys. And yeah, it helps when you got the best player in the world in Nikola Jokic. But I think that's what the Broncos need to do as well. They need to look at this thing long term and say, okay, whatever happens this year is gravy. Let's not get distracted at the trade deadline. Let's not go out there and make some crazy move. My partners wanted to go get a tight end. Yeah, I'd love to have a tight end as well. But what are you going to get at the trade deadline with the tight end? Go get a guy like Hunter Henry, who's been averaging like 400, 500 yards per season for the last couple of years. I don't think that's the best idea for the Broncos to do right now. Look, I love where the Broncos are at. And although I think Sean Payton has made a handful of very questionable decisions, especially in game management, whether we're talking about timeouts, whether we're talking about delayed games, whether we're talking about challenges, I think Sean has had a handful of moments this year that he'd probably like a redo on. You got to love the relationship between Sean Payton and Bo Nix. Look, I've been a realist with Bo Nix from day one. It feels like you're either all the way out on Bo Nix or you're all the way in on Bo Nix, and he's going to be the second coming of Jesus. Bo Nix is climbing, and that's good. When this season's all said and done, I want to have 2 to 3 wow games. 2 to 3 wow games where you look at it and you're like, that kind of looked like Jaden Daniels. Look, Bo Nix doesn't have a Jaden Daniels skill set athletically. He doesn't have the arm of Jaden Daniels. So I'm not talking about the wow throws, but what I am talking about is a wow game. Wow. We dominated that game offensively. I don't need 5 of them. I don't need 6 of them. I don't need Bo Nix to be competing for Rookie of the Year, anything like that. Just give me steady growth with 2 to 3 wow games. And then I'll go into the offseason and I'll be like, yeah, we got our dude. Because what we've had right now, look, if you want the honest truth, it's not good enough. It's just not. And that's okay. And I'm not out on Bo Nix. I'm just telling you what we've had so far, but it is getting better, right? And so that's a great thing. Look, I think that you can be realistic about Bo Nix. You can say the first quarter of the season was not good enough, but if you're looking at the stock chart, it's going up. Now, like any other stock chart, it's going to go up, down, down, up. Now, what matters is that at the end of the year, that arrow is still pointing up, and it's much further high than it was at the beginning of the year. And I think we're going to have some moments. Look, Bo Nix has been protecting the football well, and that's why you have an opportunity to win games when you've got defense that's balling out and quarterbacks protecting the football. I expect Bo Nix to have a game in there where he tosses 2, maybe 3 interceptions. He'll probably have a couple of those at some point this season. But if he continues to protect the ball well, look, you can win a lot of games with field position. That's how you won the Raiders game. Well, you won the Raiders game with 3 turnovers, with a pick 6, but you also had 4, maybe 5 drives on a short field. And that's what you got to count on when a quarterback is not necessarily playing at his highest level. Look, after watching the all 22, here's what I thought Bo Nix did really well. He protected the football. He got better as the game went on, and he took what the defense gave him. But when you watch the all 22, you're also going to realize there were 4, maybe 5 passes out there that were chunk yardage throws, like 15 to 24 yard throws that the guys were more or less wide open, and Bo Nix passed on it to go to the check down. I ain't mad at him. I'm not mad at him. Look, man, stay safe. That's fine. But what I am saying is I do want to see those attempts go up. Look, if you're going to turn down, let's say you turn down 5 yardage throws over the course of a game. Let's take that down to maybe 3 that you pass up on. Then as we get a little bit further down to 2, maybe 1, and then maybe even 0. I'm fine with taking the safe route right now, but every game that goes by, we need to start taking the reins off Bo Nix, and Bo Nix needs to start challenging himself a little bit. Look, the reality is, after he got in that sideline spat with Sean and he got ticked off, he took some shots down the field. The throw to Troy Franklin was right before the sideline spat, so I'm not even including that one. And if he connects on that throw, we're probably preaching a different story about the aggressiveness of Bo Nix. Look, he threw the ball, so it should count no matter what. The ball should have been caught. I think it's one of those balls that you kind of understand if the wide receiver drops it, but you also are like, dude, any top flight wide receiver in the NFL is coming down with that football, and Troy Franklin would certainly like a do-over with it. You know, the Broncos are trying to force feed Troy Franklin. They're trying to force feed Marvin Mims. I don't really know why. You know, Vele to me was the second best wide receiver coming out of training camp, and he got banged up, but when he's fully healthy, I would much rather see Vele featured. I doubt if he is, though, because we all know how politics work in the NFL. And when you're a high draft pick, they're going to try to make it work with you. Marvin Mims, relatively high draft pick. Troy Franklin, relatively high draft pick. So that's the way it's going to go. You know, when Drew Lock was drafted, they drafted Albert Okwuegbunam, and I referred to that as his whoopee, right? Alberto, Drew Lock went to Missouri together. They had chemistry, and you could tell when Drew Lock first got in there, he was looking for Albert O because it was a guy that he trusted. It was a guy that he knew. And I've been a little bit surprised that Bo Nix and Troy Franklin haven't been able to find their chemistry, but I was out there every day. I was out there every day for training camp, and Troy Franklin was by far getting yelled at the most of any players by the coaches. That doesn't necessarily mean that Troy Franklin was a giant screw up. A lot of times players that get yelled at are often players that coaches know they're going to rely on, but he was messing up a lot and coaches were all over him. But the Broncos coaches, Sean Payton, they're trying to force him down there. Look, Troy Franklin, Marvin Mims, in theory, they provide something that our other wide receivers do not, and that's speed. They're the guys that you want to take the roof off. And so you go to them when you're trying to take those deep shots. You got Marvin Mims involved on a jet sweep early in the game. And, as I just look over here and check out the Seahawks game, all of a sudden we got a football game over there. I haven't been watching. It was 23-10 last I saw, 23-17. But anyways, you got Marvin Mims involved in that jet sweep, and he picked up like 19 yards on it. And then where's he the rest of the game? Troy Franklin, gosh, man, I'd love to see him and Bo Nix find whatever college chemistry they had. They just can't seem to get it going. But look, here's where you're at. You're 3-2 with a hell of an opportunity in front of you. One hell of an opportunity. You got the Chargers, a beatable football team that they're charging. Chargers are charging. They're doing their deal. Justin Herbert has been a little bit banged up. I cannot believe the fact that Justin Herbert, who a lot of people put in the elite category of quarterbacks in the NFL, has yet to throw for 200 yards in a game. 200 yards is nothing, man. It's nothing. 300 yards, okay. If you said he hasn't thrown for 300 yards, it'd be like, all right, well, that's okay. But 200 yards, that's like a pass-fail line of like a decent game in the NFL. And Justin Herbert is yet to reach that point. So you got a great opportunity against the Chargers. You're going to have to play great rush defense because you know they're going to want to run the hell out of the football. Defensively, when you're going up against the Chargers, hey, keep bringing the pressure because those tackles have been banged up. I think Joe Alt's going to be back. I don't know about Rashawn Slater. They've given up a bunch of sacks over the course of the season. Broncos are the most aggressive blitzing team in the NFL. Vance Joseph is calling more blitzes than any other team, and I don't see any reason why you would slow that down against the Chargers, against a banged-up offensive line that has had 3 or 4 rotations already. So have great rush defense. Someone piss off Bo Nix early in the game, and I think you're going to be in good shape. Then we look ahead against the Saints. Very winnable football game. You look ahead against the Panthers, very winnable football game. Man, let's get to the halfway mark of this season, at least 5-3, at best 6-2. And we're talking about playoffs, man. Pretty insane. Anyways, that's it for today. I'll be back with you guys tomorrow. I'll have my keys to victory for this game coming up on Friday or maybe even Saturday. Again, stay tuned, though. We got fresh content coming out every single day. Subscribe to me over on YouTube if you do me a favor. That would be awesome. The link is in my Twitter bio there. Or if you're on Facebook, just go to youtube.com/@Mount Columbus. Love you all. Mount Columbus out.